All right, here's a 7-line speech inspired by David Goggins' mindset. You are capable of far more than you think. The only limits that exist are the ones you accept. Embrace the pain because growth lives right outside your comfort zone. Stop negotiating with your mind. You don't need permission to be relentless. Every excuse is a step backward. Choose discipline over comfort every time. Your past doesn't define you. The fight you put in today does. Stay hard, not just when it's easy, but especially when it's not. Prove to yourself every day that you are unbreakable. Growth happens outside your comfort zone. This idea is simple but incredibly powerful. Most people spend their lives avoiding discomfort, sticking to routines and habits that feel safe and predictable. But the truth is, staying in your comfort zone means staying stagnant. Real growth, both mentally and physically, demands that you willingly step into situations that challenge you, that make you question your abilities, and that sometimes even make you want to quit. Embracing discomfort is not about seeking pain for its own sake, but about understanding that pain and struggle are the prices you pay for becoming stronger, smarter, and more capable. When you intentionally put yourself in uncomfortable situations, you force your mind and body to adapt. This adaptation is growth. For example, waking up early to train when you'd rather sleep is uncomfortable, but over time it builds discipline. Choosing to confront difficult conversations instead of avoiding them might be awkward, but it teaches you courage and communication skills. These small acts of embracing discomfort compound over time, transforming you into someone who doesn't flinch in the face of adversity. Every time you choose the harder path, you're telling yourself that you are in control, not your fears or your comfort-seeking instincts. One of the main reasons people avoid discomfort is the fear of failure. Society often teaches us that failure is something to be ashamed of, when in reality, failure is one of the most powerful learning tools. By reframing failure as feedback, you can learn to see each uncomfortable experience as a stepping stone rather than a setback. For instance, if you fail a test or a job interview, it's easy to retreat back to what feels safe. But if you can push through the discomfort of that failure, analyze what went wrong, and make a plan to improve, you come back stronger and smarter. Embracing discomfort means embracing failure as part of the process, not the end of it. Moreover, discomfort is the gateway to discovering your true potential. Most of us operate far below our capabilities simply because we've never tested our limits. The human mind is wired to seek comfort and avoid pain, a survival mechanism that often works against us in the modern world. By consciously choosing discomfort, you disrupt this pattern and unlock a reserve of potential you didn't even know existed. Think about it. Every major achievement in your life likely came after a period of discomfort. Learning a new skill, getting in shape, starting a new career, or overcoming a personal challenge. Each of these required you to stretch beyond what was familiar and comfortable. In a way, embracing discomfort is about redefining your relationship with pain and struggle. Pain is temporary, but the lessons and strength gained from pushing through it are permanent. When you make discomfort a habit, you train your mind to stop reacting emotionally to challenges and start responding rationally. You begin to see struggles as opportunities rather than threats. This shift in mindset is what separates those who live average lives from those who achieve greatness. It's not that high achievers don't feel discomfort, they do. The difference is that they've trained themselves to act in spite of it. Another aspect of embracing discomfort is understanding that it's a daily practice, not a one-time decision. The discomfort you embraced yesterday doesn't build tomorrow's strength. It's about waking up each day with the decision to do what's hard. Whether that's hitting the gym, making difficult choices at work, or having honest conversations with yourself about your goals and progress. Consistency is key. The more you make a habit of embracing discomfort, the less power it holds over you. What was once intimidating becomes routine, and your baseline for what you can handle expands. Ultimately, embracing discomfort is about reclaiming control over your life. When you stop avoiding what's hard, You start making decisions based on your goals rather than your fears. You stop being a passenger and become the driver, capable of steering your life in the direction you want. In a world that constantly seeks shortcuts and convenience, choosing discomfort is a revolutionary act. It's a declaration that you refuse to settle for average, that you are willing to do what others won't, to achieve what others can't. Your mind will quit long before your body does. This concept is a fundamental truth about human potential and resilience. Most people don't even come close to reaching their physical limits because their minds give up first. The mind is wired to seek comfort and avoid pain, a survival mechanism that often becomes a barrier to achieving greatness. When things get tough, your brain's first instinct is to convince you to stop, to rest, to quit, to find an easier path. This is where mental toughness becomes essential. It's the ability to override those impulses and keep pushing forward despite the discomfort and the urge to stop. Mental toughness isn't something you're born with. It's a skill you build through consistent effort. Each time you push past the point where you want to quit, you're training your mind to handle more. It's like callousing your hands in the gym. Painful at first, but eventually the skin toughens. The same applies to your mind. By repeatedly doing things that test your limits, you build resilience. This is why activities like long-distance running, cold showers, or grueling workouts are so powerful. They're not just about physical conditioning, but about teaching your mind that you won't give in easily. The 40% rule, often attributed to Navy SEALs, suggests that when your mind tells you you're done, you're really only at 40% of your actual capacity. The other 60% is untapped potential waiting on the other side of discomfort. This rule highlights how much your mind underestimates what you can do. When you feel exhausted or overwhelmed, it's usually a mental barrier, not a physical one. Recognizing this is a game changer because it shifts your focus from how tired you feel to how much more you could actually do. In essence, it's a reminder that your limits are largely self-imposed. One way to develop mental toughness is by setting and achieving small goals that stretch your capabilities. For instance, if you're used to running 5 miles, try 6. If you can do 20 push-ups, aim for 25. The goal is to train your mind to see discomfort as a signal to push harder, not to back down. Each small victory rewires your brain to associate difficulty with progress rather than defeat. Over time, this builds a mindset that sees challenges as opportunities to grow rather than threats to avoid. Visualization is another powerful tool for mental toughness. When you visualize yourself pushing through pain or completing a challenging task, you're training your brain to respond with confidence rather than hesitation. Athletes use this technique all the time, mentally rehearsing their performance under pressure. The mind can't always distinguish between a real and an imagined experience, so visualizing success can make it feel more attainable when you're actually in the moment. This practice also helps you manage stress and anxiety by familiarizing your mind with the discomfort of high-pressure situations. Self-talk plays a huge role in mental toughness. Most people are their own worst critics, feeding themselves a constant stream of negativity, especially when things get hard. Replacing that with affirmations like, "I've got this," "I don't quit," or even simple commands like "keep going" can have a massive impact. Positive self-talk isn't about lying to yourself. It's about countering the mind's tendency to exaggerate difficulty and minimize your capabilities. The words you say to yourself in tough moments can be the difference between quitting and finding that extra gear to push through. Another aspect of mental toughness is learning to be comfortable being uncomfortable. This is about reframing discomfort as a sign that you're on the right path. When you stop avoiding what's hard and start seeking it out instead, you build confidence in your ability to handle adversity. This shift in perspective makes challenges seem less daunting because you've proven to yourself time and time again that you can survive and even thrive in discomfort. It's a mindset that says if it's hard, it's worth doing, and it turns obstacles into stepping stones. Consistency is what separates those who are mentally tough from those who aren't. Anyone can push hard for a day, but mental toughness is built over weeks, months, and years of showing up, especially when you don't feel like it. This is why daily habits matter so much. Whether it's exercising, reading, or tackling a difficult task at work, doing it consistently makes it part of who you are. When something becomes part of your identity, quitting isn't even an option. It's just what you do, day in and day out, regardless of how you feel. Mental toughness is about mastering your mind instead of letting it master you. It's about recognizing that most limitations are self-imposed and that the discomfort you feel is temporary, but the strength you gain from pushing through it is permanent. The more you challenge yourself, the more you realize that the voice telling you to quit is just that, a voice, not a command. And when you stop listening to that voice, you start discovering what you're truly capable of. Being brutally honest with yourself is one of the hardest things to do, yet it's also one of the most powerful. The concept of the accountability mirror, as David Goggin calls it, is about standing in front of the mirror and telling yourself the unfiltered truth about who you are, what you've been avoiding, and where you're falling short. It's easy to lie to others about your progress, your effort, or your goals, but lying to yourself only prolongs stagnation. When you look in the mirror and strip away the excuses, you're left with two choices: keep living a lie or commit to becoming better. This moment of raw honesty is uncomfortable, but it's also where true transformation begins. Most people avoid this kind of self-reflection because it's painful to admit our flaws and failures. We create narratives to protect our ego, stories about why we haven't achieved our goals, why it's someone else's fault, or why we'll start tomorrow. The accountability mirror shatters these illusions by forcing you to confront the gap between who you are and who you want to be. It's not about self-loathing or being overly critical. It's about taking responsibility for your actions and results. When you can honestly assess where you stand, you gain the clarity needed to make real progress. Pretending to be better than you are doesn't help you grow. It only deepens the rut. This brutal honesty also extends to your goals. Many people set vague or unrealistic goals because it feels good in the moment, but without a concrete plan and a willingness to admit what it will truly take, those goals remain fantasies. The mirror forces you to ask tough questions. Are you really putting in the effort or just going through the motions? Are your habits aligned with your ambitions? Or are you sabotaging yourself with distractions and excuses? This kind of reflection is uncomfortable, but it's essential. Being honest about what you want and what you're willing to do to get it is the first step to achieving anything worthwhile. The power of the accountability mirror also lies in its ability to help you identify patterns. Often our failures aren't isolated incidents, but part of larger cycles of behavior. Maybe you always start strong but quit halfway through, or you procrastinate until the pressure is overwhelming. Recognizing these patterns requires brutal self-awareness. Once you see the patterns, you can start breaking them by setting smaller, actionable goals. For example, if you always abandon your fitness goals after a few weeks, commit to just showing up at the gym every day for a month, no matter what. Small wins build confidence, and confidence builds momentum. Self-accountability isn't just about identifying problems, it's about committing to solutions. The mirror doesn't just show you what's wrong, it also challenges you to do something about it. This is where most people get stuck. They acknowledge the problem, but never take the next step. Being accountable means making a plan and following through, even when motivation fades. It means tracking your progress, owning your mistakes, and adjusting your approach without making excuses. When you hold yourself to a higher standard, you stop accepting mediocrity from yourself. You start demanding more, not because anyone else expects it, but because you do. Another aspect of the accountability mirror is honesty about your environment. The people you surround yourself with and the habits you maintain play a massive role in your success or failure. If your friends lack ambition, their mindset will rub off on you. If your environment is full of distractions, your focus will suffer. The mirror forces you to confront these uncomfortable truths. Are the people in your life pushing you forward or holding you back? Are your surroundings conducive to your goals, or are they just making it easier to stay comfortable? Answering these questions honestly might mean making tough choices about who and what you allow into your life. Accountability also means owning your past without being defined by it. Too often, people let past failures become lifelong excuses. They replay old mistakes as if they're proof of what's possible. The mirror demands that you stop looking backward with regret and start looking forward with intention. It's about acknowledging where you went wrong, learning the lessons, and then letting go. The past is valuable only if it informs your present actions and future decisions. Holding yourself accountable means refusing to let yesterday's failures become today's limitations. The accountability mirror is about freedom. Freedom from illusions, from excuses, and from self-doubt. When you practice radical honesty, you strip away the false narratives that keep you stuck. You stop pretending to be someone you're not and start becoming someone better. You gain the power to rewrite your story based on truth rather than wishful thinking. It's not about perfection, but progress. About waking up each day and deciding to face the truth with courage. When you can do that consistently, the person staring back at you in the mirror becomes someone you're proud of. Callousing the mind is a concept that extends beyond just physical resilience. It's about building mental armor through repeated exposure to discomfort and adversity. Just as calluses form on your hands after repeated friction and pressure, your mind develops toughness when it's consistently challenged and pushed beyond its comfort zone. This process isn't pleasant. In fact, it's often painful and exhausting. But the pain is the point. Each time you face a difficult situation and choose to push through instead of back down, you're telling your mind that you're in control, not your fears or your desire for comfort. Over time, this creates a mindset that doesn't flinch in the face of challenges, but leans into them instead. Callousing your mind starts with intentionally doing things that are hard, not because you have to, but because you know it will make you stronger. This can be as simple as waking up early when you'd rather sleep in, running an extra mile when your legs are burning, or tackling a difficult conversation that you've been avoiding. The point is to prove to yourself that you can survive discomfort without quitting. Most people go through life avoiding pain at all costs, which leaves them mentally weak and unprepared for adversity. When you regularly do things that test your limits, you build a reserve of mental toughness that you can draw on when life inevitably gets hard. The key to callousing the mind is consistency. One hard workout or one difficult day isn't enough. It's about doing the hard things repeatedly until they become routine. This kind of discipline rewires your brain to handle stress differently. Instead of seeing discomfort as something to escape, you start to see it as a signal that you're growing. This shift in perspective is powerful because it changes how you react to challenges. When your mind is calloused, obstacles become opportunities to test and expand your limits rather than threats to be avoided. You stop negotiating with your mind about whether or not you feel like doing something and start doing what needs to be done regardless of how you feel. Callousing the mind also involves reframing pain and failure. Most people see failure as proof that they're not good enough, but a calloused mind sees failure as data feedback on what needs to be improved. This mindset shift makes you less afraid to take risks because you're no longer attached to the outcome, you're focused on the process. Pain, both physical and emotional, is seen the same way. It's temporary and instructive, not something to be feared, but something to be studied. When you can detach your emotions from pain and failure, you become unstoppable. You stop avoiding situations that might hurt or expose your weaknesses and start seeking them out because you know they're the fastest path to growth. Another aspect of callousing the mind is learning to silence the inner voice that tells you to quit. This voice is loudest when things get tough, when your muscles are burning, when your brain is exhausted, or when the odds seem impossible. Most people listen to this voice and stop, believing that it's telling the truth. But the mind is a liar. It exaggerates danger, overestimates pain, and underestimates what you're capable of. By repeatedly pushing through moments when that voice is screaming at you to stop, you teach your mind that it doesn't get a vote. Over time, the voice gets quieter and you get stronger. Callousing the mind isn't just about enduring pain, it's about controlling your response to it. This is why mindfulness and focus are crucial. When you're in the middle of a tough workout or a stressful situation, your mind will try to pull you into the future, to how much more you have left to do, or into the past, to times when you failed. The ability to stay present, to focus solely on the next step, is what allows you to keep going when you want to quit. Meditation, breath control, and even simple mantras like one more rep or just keep moving can help you stay grounded in the moment. The more you practice this kind of focus, the more it becomes second nature. Environment also plays a role in callousing the mind. Surrounding yourself with people who are mentally tough will push you to level up. Weak environments breed weak minds. If everyone around you settles for mediocrity, it becomes easy to do the same. But if you're surrounded by people who embrace discomfort, who chase difficult goals without complaining, that mentality becomes contagious. They'll call you out when you're slacking and hold you to a higher standard. This kind of accountability is uncomfortable, but it's essential for growth. It forces you to raise your game or be left behind. Callousing the mind is about freedom. When you're no longer afraid of discomfort, pain, or failure, there's very little that can hold you back. You stop being a victim of circumstances and start taking control of your life. Every time you do something hard, you're making a deposit into a mental toughness bank that you can draw on when things get really tough. This kind of resilience isn't about being fearless, but about being able to act in spite of fear. It's about proving to yourself day in and day out that you can handle whatever comes your way. When your mind is calloused, the world seems less threatening because you know that no matter what happens, you won't break. Motivation is unreliable. This is a harsh truth that most people don't want to hear. It's easy to feel fired up after watching an inspiring video, reading a motivational quote, or even making a list of ambitious goals. In those moments, you're convinced that nothing can stop you. But motivation is fleeting. It comes in waves, often disappearing as soon as things get tough, boring, or inconvenient. The real challenge is not getting motivated, but staying disciplined when that initial spark fades. Discipline, unlike motivation, is not about how you feel at any given moment, but about committing to actions regardless of your emotions. It's doing what you said you would do day in and day out, even when you don't want to. The problem with relying on motivation is that it's unpredictable. Some days you wake up feeling unstoppable, ready to conquer everything in your path. Other days, even getting out of bed feels like a battle. If you only act when you feel like it, progress becomes inconsistent at best and non-existent at worst. This is why discipline is so crucial. Discipline bridges the gap between your goals and the days when motivation is nowhere to be found. It's the alarm clock you don't snooze, the workout you don't skip, and the work you don't procrastinate. Discipline doesn't care how you feel. It only cares what you do. Building discipline starts with creating non-negotiable routines. Habits are powerful because they eliminate decision-making. When something becomes a habit, you do it automatically, without wasting mental energy deciding whether or not to do it. This is why morning routines are so effective. If you start your day with a series of disciplined actions, making your bed, exercising, planning your tasks, you build momentum that carries into everything else. Consistency in these small actions creates a foundation of self-trust. You begin to believe in your ability to follow through, which makes it easier to tackle bigger challenges. Discipline also involves controlling your environment. Motivation can be killed by distractions, temptations, and negative influences. If your phone is always buzzing with notifications, your workspace is cluttered, or your friends encourage bad habits, you're making discipline 100 times harder than it needs to be. Setting up your environment for success might mean deleting social media apps, laying out your workout clothes the night before, or finding an accountability partner who won't let you off the hook. When your surroundings support your goals, discipline becomes less about willpower and more about eliminating options that don't align with your purpose. Another key to building discipline is mastering your self-talk. Most people sabotage themselves with excuses and justifications. When things get hard, the mind starts offering easy outs. I'll do it tomorrow. I deserve a break. One day off won't hurt. The disciplined mind recognizes these thoughts as lies and responds with action, replacing excuses with empowering self-talk, like I don't miss workouts or I control my choices. Rewires your brain to see discipline as part of who you are rather than something you force yourself to do. The words you use shape your identity, and identity drives behavior. A disciplined life also requires a clear why. Motivation might get you started, but a strong purpose keeps you going. When you know exactly why you're doing something, whether it's to build a better future, to prove something to yourself, or to support your family, it becomes easier to stay disciplined. This clarity helps you push through the grind on days when motivation is absent. When you're exhausted and your mind is screaming to quit, remembering why you started can pull you through. Your purpose becomes a compass, guiding you when motivation fades. Failure is another test of discipline. It's easy to stay on track when everything is going well. But the real test is what you do when you mess up. Most people let one slip-up spiral into a week or a month of lost progress because they're chasing motivation instead of relying on discipline. A disciplined person recognizes that failure is part of the process. They learn the lesson, make adjustments, and get back to work immediately. There's no wallowing in guilt or waiting to feel motivated again. Discipline treats failure as a speed bump, not a stop sign. Consistency is the backbone of discipline. One intense workout won't get you fit, and one productive day won't build a successful career. It's about showing up every day, putting in the work, and trusting that the results will come in time. This delayed gratification is why so many people struggle with discipline. In a world of instant everything, likes, replies, deliveries. The idea of grinding for weeks, months, or years with little immediate reward seems unbearable. But the truth is, all significant achievements are built on countless days of boring, repetitive effort. Discipline is about embracing the process, not just the outcome. Discipline is freedom. It sounds contradictory. But the more disciplined you are, the more control you have over your life. When you're disciplined, you're not at the mercy of your moods, your distractions, or your impulses. You decide what needs to be done and do it, regardless of how you feel. This kind of self-mastery creates a profound sense of freedom because you're no longer a slave to fleeting emotions or external circumstances. Discipline might be hard, but a life without it is harder, filled with regret, missed opportunities, and unfulfilled potential. When you understand this, discipline stops being a burden and becomes a path to the life you truly want. Embracing the grind is a mindset that separates those who merely dream of success from those who actually achieve it. The grind is the day in, day out work that is often boring, repetitive, and exhausting. It's the hours spent practicing alone, the early mornings, the late nights, and the sacrifices that no one sees. Most people want the rewards of success without enduring the grind required to get there. They love the idea of winning, but not the process. The truth is, the grind is where success is truly built. It's not glamorous, and it rarely feels good in the moment, but it's the only path to meaningful achievement. Learning to embrace the grind means accepting that progress is often slow and unremarkable, yet choosing to show up and put in the work anyway. The biggest barrier to embracing the grind is the illusion of motivation. People wait to feel inspired or excited to start working toward their goals. But the reality is that motivation is temporary. It comes and goes, often without warning. Those who achieve greatness do so not because they are always motivated, but because they are relentless. They don't wait to feel like doing the work. They do it regardless of how they feel. Embracing the grind means understanding that most days you won't feel like putting in the effort, and that's okay. You do it anyway because the commitment to your goals matters more than your fleeting emotions. This is what separates professionals from amateurs. The ability to show up consistently regardless of mood. To truly embrace the grind, you must reframe how you see discomfort and struggle. Most people run from these things because they're unpleasant. But discomfort is a sign that you're pushing beyond your current limits, which is the only way to grow. When you're struggling, it means you're doing something hard, something that's expanding your capacity. Instead of seeing the grind as suffering to be avoided, it helps to view it as the price of admission for the life you want. Each grueling workout, each long night of study, each hour spent honing your craft is a deposit into your future success. The grind is not your enemy. It's your ally in becoming the person you want to be. Consistency is the cornerstone of embracing the grind. One intense effort won't transform you. but thousands of small, consistent actions will. This is why habits matter more than big goals. Goals can provide direction, but it's your daily habits that determine where you actually end up. If you can build the discipline to do the small things right, even when you don't feel like it, the big things will eventually take care of themselves. This kind of consistency requires patience and a willingness to delay gratification. It means trusting the process, even when the results are not yet visible. Progress is often invisible at first, but if you keep grinding, eventually the results will speak for themselves. Another crucial aspect of embracing the grind is learning to love the process rather than obsessing over the outcome. If your happiness depends solely on achieving a specific goal, you're setting yourself up for misery. Goals take time, and the grind is the majority of that time. Finding satisfaction in the work itself, in the small improvements, the lessons learned, and the act of showing up makes the process sustainable. When you love the process, you stop needing external validation to keep going. The grind becomes less about proving something to others and more about proving something to yourself, that you have what it takes to see things through. Embracing the grind also means accepting that setbacks are part of the process. Failures, plateaus, and mistakes are inevitable when you're pushing your limits. Most people see these as signs to quit, but those who embrace the grind view them as feedback. Each failure is data that can help you improve if you're willing to learn from it. Resilience is built by refusing to give up after a setback, by choosing to get back to work immediately rather than wallowing in self-pity. This ability to bounce back quickly, to treat failure as a stepping stone rather than a roadblock, is what allows people to keep grinding long after others have given up. Another element of embracing the grind is the willingness to sacrifice. Success demands a price, and that price is often comfort, free time, and sometimes even relationships. Most people aren't willing to make these sacrifices, which is why most people never reach their full potential. Embracing the grind means accepting that you can have it all, that achieving something extraordinary will require you to give up things that are merely good. It's about prioritizing long-term fulfillment over short-term pleasure, understanding that the pain of discipline weighs ounces while the pain of regret weighs tons. Ultimately, embracing the grind is about building a strong identity. When you consistently do hard things, you start to see yourself as the kind of person who doesn't quit, who keeps promises to themselves, and who gets things done no matter what. This identity shift is powerful because it makes staying disciplined easier. When grinding is part of who you are, not just something you do, it becomes almost automatic. You stop negotiating with yourself about whether to do the work because that's simply who you are. Someone who shows up and grinds day in and day out. In the end, the grind is not just about achieving your goals, but about becoming someone you're proud of.